Greetings from the Erie Coast. This is Mad Shad. Having a moment of clarity here. Something I've been trying to wrap my head around. So it's all about numbers. So I've been talking a lot about reparations. Hearing this a lot. So I figured, okay, I had a lot of questions. So I looked it up and so reparations, what are we talking about reparations? We're talking about money being given to black folks, basically for, their ancestors being slaves. That's the argument. That's the deal. So the questions arise. How many slaves were here? That question is very interesting. And the general consensus is that there were only 388,000 African slaves that made it to America, out of 10.7 million that were shipped here. For the whole course, going from the 1500s to the 1800s to 1880 is when all slaves were freed and given freedom. So I mean, this is just the bare bones facts. So 12.7 of them, 12.5 million were shipped, but only 10.7 survived. The majority of those slaves went to the Caribbeans, South America. They were owned by the British, so they're not our concern. Okay, just from an accountability standpoint, if we are going to look at this and say, okay, great, let's go and be accountable. So William Tecumseh Sherman, when he liberated the South, the promise was 40 acres and a mule. Okay, now 40,000 slaves were given that 40 acres and a mule. Basically, they took over the coastline of South Carolina. That's where you get your Geechee and Gula cultures. They have their 40 acres and a mule. So 40,000 people, or recently enslaved people, were already paid. Boom! Here's your compensation. Sorry for your thing. So that leaves about from the point of 388,000 to 1880, it rose to 6.7. So minus that 40,000 makes it about 6.6 million slaves, because slaves were also born into captivity, and they were owned. So roughly 6.6 million people need compensation. That's slaves. A lot of those were families. We don't know who the families were. I'm sure that there's some kind of genealogy that can be tracked down on that, but that's very important as well, because as of 1880 till now, there are approximately 45 million black folks in America to this day. Roughly 45 million, maybe a little bit more. It's a census thing every year. So who gets it? Who gets it? So, because we had a lot of foreigners that come over, they don't get anything. Okay, if you came over after 1880, you don't get nothing. That's not yours. There's no reparations for you. That's somebody else's responsibility. I'm talking about America's responsibility, and I'm trying to do the math here. So from the original 6.6 million from 1880, okay, that's what you're looking at. All right, that's what I think that we, if we're going to do this reparations thing, that's what we're responsible for. So I also did the math. Okay, what is 40 acres and what is a mule? Roughly, I think it came up to $125,000. That's a pretty good chunk of change. Paid to 6.6 million people. All right, that comes up to $830 billion. All right, if you want to put a price tag on it. And you guys can argue at this, whatever, I don't care. This is a unbiased look at history and, as a accountability thing. So $830 billion are owed. I've seen some other, and I've cross-referenced everything. There's a lot of groups out there like trillions of dollars and whatever. We're not accounting for pain and suffering and all that stuff. Okay, this is pain and suffering. This is kind of looking at it as a from a judicial standpoint as well. Whatever claims, small, large claims, whatever, claims kind of thing. But just from bare bones accountability, and you want to talk reparations, so there it is, $125,000, 125,757, $125,757, and that's roughly estimated because the price of land. Okay, that's where I ran into the problem. The price of land varies greatly in this United States. I mean, you can pay $60,000 for an acre of land in New Jersey. Yet you can go to Kansas and purchase an acre of land for $530. So I had to look at, okay, what was the 40 acres and a mule about? Well, it was about, here's some land, here's some farmland that you can make a life. Okay, that was the idea, that here's a way and means for you to provide for you and your family. 40 acres and a mule, which was very nice back in the day. I mean, it was hard work, and that's what's up. If you chose to live in the city, you chose to live in work. All right, you're done. All right, but if you could get 40 acres and a mule is roughly about $3,000 to $5,000. So that's factored into. So whatever. You see where I'm going with this? It's only out of the 6.7 or 6.6 million people at the end of 1880. All right. So the slaves were here from like 1524. Okay. And it was this. It's called the Middle Passage. Only 388,000 made it, and from that original bloodline heritage, okay, grew to 6.6 million. So I don't even want to get into the genealogy of that. That's got to be very convoluted. So that would be my way of looking at it if I was in charge of this whole reparations thing. So roughly 45 million in this country. So you do the math on that. How many? Then you got to think about how many immigrated from other countries here. That all we're responsible for is 6.6 million. That's roughly $125,000 given to every ancestral, or whatever, any person that had an ancestral tie to slavery in this country. And so going with that, there you go, $125,000. And hey, if you wanted to break it up, that's even less if divided by 45 million. If all 45 million say, hey, we're all former slaves. We all have ties to this ancestral slavery. Okay, but what does that do if that happens? Okay, how about this? How about all the money everything that was given, the programs, all that shit, all that free stuff from 1880 until now, paid, given to these people, this group of people that claim reparations. Okay, all of that must be subtracted. I mean, think about it. Why not? $125,000 to 6.6 million. Well, I mean, you can, whatever that math is. I can only guesstimate. The records are not really that clear, are they? But what I did look up is clear. So, yeah, people are going to scam it, sure. But what if you were on welfare? What if you were on government assistance? Then you got to look at the fair market value of said apartment or said housing. What if you had free health care? I mean, all that should be subtracted. Or if it comes up to $125,000, well, guess what? Congratulations, you got your reparations. And talk about the can of worms this opens. Okay, we haven't even looked into the indentured servitude, okay, that a lot of people were promised when they came over here, when that mass exodus of immigration started. And they were never paid. So who's responsible for that? What is the government responsible for that, or are these the ancestral beginnings of said corporation? J.P. Morgan and Chase, Eli Whitley. I mean, you can go back all the way back to these ancestral birth conceptions of these corporations that are huge now. Do they owe people reparations for lost wages that were never paid? I mean, where do you end with this? Where do you end with this? I can only venture to speculate that a lot of corporations would go bankrupt right there. Like, we're out of here, man. We owe too much, And who's going to make them pay? I mean, you want to be accountable. So, in the United States, from its conception to the time that they made slavery obsolete, okay, it didn't end. Actually, slavery did not end with the Emancipation Proclamation. It ended in 1880. When finally the people of the United States of America said no more slavery. It still flourished, actually, after the Emancipation Proclamation, mostly in the North and Midwest, where it was just hard to, regulate anything. So, where does it end? Where does it end? What about all the Asians that came over here and built the railroads that were actually enslaved the American Indians? You could argue to say that the American Indians, the Native Americans, were already given their reparations. So whatever. It's still. I mean, yeah, it's a very touchy subject. It's very, very Wojak. Gets you right in the feels, and makes people angry, but truth be told, every country has this dark little, part of themselves. I mean, think about it. If you went to Scandinavia and said, "Hey, all of Britain, all of Europe, and parts of the Mediterranean demand our reparations," because the Viking age lasted from, what was it, 400 something to 1066, and arguably after that too. And not only did they enslave, well, they enslaved a lot of people, mostly white people from Britain. But they did take some slaves from Mediterranean, some Umayyasid and Abbasid. The Abbasid they could not conquer. The Umayyad they did. So they took about 40,000 slaves there, and they distributed them throughout, Scandinavia, Europe, and Ireland. That's where you get your Black Irishmen from. But yeah, in Britain, of course. But they looted cities, took all their wealth, everything that was shiny, and food and livestock and women and and men, as thrallings, thralls, word for slaves, or a lowercase kind of classification in society. But one could argue that Sweden and Denmark and Finland and all, Norway and all them owe trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars in reparations. So, and let's not even talk about the Romans. How many people did they enslave? How many countries? And Genghis Khan, Mongolia. I mean, do they owe? They were the biggest. The Mongolian Empire was the biggest and longest lasting empire in the history of man. So that we know of, that our known history. Let's just say that. So how much do they owe? They must be the biggest. They've got the biggest bill for reparations. So where does this end? Where does it end? And does it make it better? Am I supposed to have pity on someone just because of their forefathers and ancestors? Why? I mean, things have changed so much, and so much opportunity has been given to everyone here and across the world, actually. So when you think about it, how much is that opportunity worth? I mean, we're talking about worth here. So, people from Africa come to this country, all right, still to this day, and they make it big. All right. Africa is not a really good place to live. It's really not. Zero opportunities, little to no opportunities. They have to work 10 times as hard just to survive. All right, there's countless wars, there's countless corruption, and there's countless diseases and viruses. It's not a good place to live. So, and there's so many success stories of men and women coming from Africa, coming from nothing, working their way up to that point where they can actually get out. You have to actually work your way up to a certain level, all right, in Africa to actually be considered and get enough money for a trip. Yeah, you gotta talk to the the immigration here and all this and that. So there's fees and there's studying. These people do it, and it usually takes like 3 to 5 years of actual work, hard work and learning. All right, and these people do it just to come here, to have an opportunity, to live in a fucking hotel or apartment and have 2 to 3 jobs. And within 5 to 10 years, they're owning a house, and they're being prominent members of society, contributing. Okay. So, I mean, we have the most even in our sad state of affairs, the world still comes here because we have the most opportunities. And yes, we have a colorful past, as all countries do. Okay? But we move on. And we make amends, we grow, we keep going. We carry on, and we make a future for ourselves. And so that's the point of it all. That's the point of it all. Why are we? Once you start worrying about what you did in the past, that's where you're going to dwell. That's where you're going to stay. All right. We've learned from our mistakes. Know any slaves? No. No. There is still slavery in the world. Absolutely. Asia, India, the Middle East, Africa. Yeah, there's still slaves going on now. There is still the slave trade. And anyone is game. But we are facing a worldwide slavery of the haves and the have-nots, the elites, and the serfs. That's us. That's you. All right. Regardless of your age, color, creed, religion, sexual preference, whatever. Okay. Doesn't matter. You're all going to be fucking slaves. If you don't have $2.2 trillion in the bank and you're not part of the cabal, then you're going to be making dog food for the poor, or you're going to be dog food for the poor. So it doesn't really matter. Those who do not learn from their history are doomed to repeat it. Those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. Okay, we learned from our history. So why are we going back and give me free stuff? No, go out and work for it. Get your ass up and work. You'll have something. That's all. That's all we promise. We promise an opportunity. That's it. We give you an opportunity. You get to choose where you want to go. Okay? That's the point of it all. That's the point of this whole social construct, thing. Is you have the freedom to choose. You want to work at McDonald's for the rest of your life? Fine, go right ahead. You want to be a CEO of McDonald's? Fine. You can do that too. There is a path. There is a path to success in your life. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All right. And if making money and getting shit done and having all the big toys is happiness for you, then you have that means. But if you want to just sit around and, do nothing with your life, good luck. That's all I'm saying. And that's all that should be said. Reparations. That's a hell of a can of worms, isn't it? Where does it end? Where does it begin? Where does it end? Well, I think I just kind of roughed it out there for you. So, and by no means am I a racist. By no means am I a homophobe. By no means am I a sexist. But we all are, and to a certain extent, you have to look at it that way. And when you look at things critically, then you're going to get called those names, because critical thinking, it just takes all that out. And so I can be, crass, whatever, but it's a better way of looking at things. Look at the bottom line. Look at the critical thinking. Even though I only got 2 brain cells in my head and I have multiple fucking TBIs, and I'm, whatever. I can still think. Those 2 brain cells are badass. I like to think of one as being Albert Einstein and the other one being like Socrates, or something like that. And they change out. They change out their identities from time to time. So you get what I'm saying. That whole blend of creativity and analytical is I think is very important. philosophical meets, mathematical. I mean, art and science, the science and the arts. So I think it's very important to think that way, to have that well-rounded kind of mentality, and then boom, critical thinking, which boils it all down, gives you the facts. It teaches you how to look for facts, and you're like, well, and then your two brain cells, your two sides can start playing with it, and make something out of it. And so, and then they, give it back to the critical thinking, and I say, nah, it doesn't work, it doesn't fit. So, whatever. That's just my thoughts. Don't get it twisted. My race is the human race, as we all are. I subscribe to universal brotherhood, universal sisterhood, whatever, universal family, because look at the big picture. We're on this dirty snowball hurtling through space at high speeds, in this pinball machine of the universe. So at any point in time, it can all stop abruptly. And all of this will be for shit. So just some more, Sunday morning ranting and ravings. Happy Mother's Day. To all you mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. To all you wayward sons and daughters, call your mom. Give her a call. Send her some flowers, box of chocolates. Just, make her feel loved. Today is the day that arguably, without moms, we wouldn't be here, would we? Yes, man is man, and man is going to be the strong, the protector, and they make and build and destroy. Women, mothers, create life. That's pretty big. That's a hell of a damn power. Moms create life. They grow something inside of them and then give birth to it, and then they raise it for the rest of their lives. Okay? I mean, my mom still gives me advice and still is trying to raise me. It never stops. And so, hey, I let her do it, Moms have been around for a long time. So, arguably, without moms, we wouldn't have anything here. You wouldn't be here. So, give your mom some love. All right? This is Mad Shad having a moment of clarity and, rantings and ravings of a madman. So, encouraging you all to think, to continue to think, to continue to prep, and get prepared and train, because we all know it's a mad world out there.